We've got visions of old cobblestone streets and flip-flops at the beach, right? But if you're thinking about making St. Augustine your new hometown, you better be ready for curveballs. One block feels like stepping back in time, and the next is all brand new roofs, golf carts whizzing past, and neighbors who just moved in last week. Nobody ever brags about traffic when the Bridge of Lions is up or what it costs just to be close to the beach. Sure, you see the Instagram side of this place, but day to day, that's a whole other story, and it's full of surprises. Maybe you're tired of cold mornings, scraping ice, or maybe you just want a place where rush hour means waiting for a trolley tour to roll by. Whatever's got you searching, don't get blindsided. Stick around, because before you even think about picking a neighborhood or packing up, there's one part of living here almost everyone overlooks, and missing it could mean spending way more than you planned or landing on the wrong side of town entirely. What you're about to hear could flip everything you thought you knew about St. Augustine. Ever talk to someone who's convinced they know exactly what St. Augustine is like right up until they see it for themselves? I just had a couple fly in from out of state, all fired up for the sunny weather and beach town living. They spent weeks scrolling through listings, checking out drone videos, even picking out local coffee shops online. But stepping out of the airport, making the drive south and into St. Augustine, they hit their first surprise. Wait, this is St. Augustine? Their map led them from peaceful marsh views to a neighborhood with more construction cones than palm trees, and then right into a festival where they spent 45 minutes trying to park just to grab a bite downtown. You could see the realization hit them. This city isn't just one mood, it's a patchwork of old school charm, fresh pavement, hidden traffic jams, and moments that make you stop in your tracks both in good ways and in ways Zillow never warned you about. If that sounds a little chaotic, that's because it is. But here's the thing, the folks who love living here, they're the ones who learn how to ride that wave and turn all those surprises into part of their everyday story. It's not about finding the perfect version of St. Augustine, it's about knowing which version fits you. So before you start daydreaming about moving boxes and beach towels, let's get real about what this town actually feels like once you're here. Because the real adventure, it starts the second you pick your spot on the map, and I'm about to show you the one decision that will make or break your move. Here's the thing, when St. Augustine gets its hooks in you, it's hard to shake loose. This town has a way of making people feel like they belong, whether you showed up last week or your family has been here for generations. It's a city that serves up blue sky mornings, the smell of salt and jasmine in the air, and neighborhoods with their own personalities. But forget what you've seen on glossy postcards. This place packs surprises. One minute you're gliding past century-old coquina walls on your way to coffee at Flamingo just over the bridge with its retro vibe. Next, you're dodging a pack of golf carts buzzing through a freshly built subdivision in World Golf Village. Locals have a playbook most newcomers never get. Magnolia Avenue, it's not just for photos. If you know the rhythm, you get the peacocks, the silence, the neighbors who wave like you've lived here forever. Out on Anastasia Island, the ones who've stuck around don't even bother with pier parking. They slide down 16th or 8th Street and roll their bikes right onto the sand before sunrise. Real St. Augustine living means Friday night at the amphitheater for a concert or snagging tacos at A1A Burrito Works after a late swim with your shoes still sandy. St. Augustine South is that stretch of larger properties with no HOA. If you live here, you've probably lost track of how many oyster roasts you've been to on Shore Drive. Neighbors here swap garden tomatoes, haul their boats down to the river, and know the best shortcut to avoid traffic come festival season. In the World Golf Village area, you'll see more golf carts than sedans. The community pool, basically a summer block party, with every newcomer trying to beat the heat. And the Friday night food truck rally in Heritage Landing feels like a family reunion, except half the people just met last month. Anyone can Google best places to live in St. Augustine, but that won't show you who waves when you pass or which street lights up for nights of lights, even after the tourists head home. Living here is all about picking the pocket of town that clicks with your pace, fast, slow, historic, shiny, a little weird, or just plain home. If any part of this sounds like it's calling your name, even if you're not sure where you fit yet, don't risk guessing your way through it. My real estate team is here in St. Augustine, and we help people just like you find that perfect fit every week. Our contact information is waiting for you in the description below, so when you're ready to talk about your wish list or you just want a locals take, let's make sure you land in a spot that actually feels like home. Now, curious how each neighborhood stacks up? Side by side, vibe for vibe, hidden perks, everyday routine. Get ready, because the real difference might surprise you, and your future favorite street could be one you've never even heard of. Some cities brag about their skyline. St. Augustine folks brag about knowing where to park during nights of lights and which side streets stay shady after noon in July. You know you belong when you can walk into Juniper Market and they already know your order. Or when your neighbor hands you a bowl of daddle pepper jelly just because. I still remember my first hurricane here, how the block came together, everyone sharing extension cords and grilling whatever was thawing in their freezer. We lost power, but nobody lost their sense of humor. You find out quick. Real St. Augustine is about looking out for each other, even if you just met last week at the Saturday market. Walk a loop through Lincolnville on a Friday night, and you'll hear half a dozen neighbors having friendly conversations, music spilling out of backyards, the smell of barbecue drifting through the air. In Palencia, I've seen neighbors host porch parties for whoever wants to join, and every 4th of July, it's a contest to see who can launch fireworks just as the river lights up. There's a rhythm here that's impossible to fake. The way everyone turns out for blessing of the fleet, or how your phone fills with photos after the first foggy morning on the bayfront. I love how the marsh grass turns gold in the fall, and how locals know you don't hit the beach access at A Street unless you're ready to stop and wave at half the people that you know. Your turn. Drop a comment and let me know. What kind of neighborhood vibe are you drawn to? Are you into porch concerts or impromptu oyster roasts? Or are you chasing peace, space, and that marsh view? I'd love to hear what feels like home to you. People don't just move to St. Augustine for lifestyle. They want the slow mornings, the neighborly waves, the sunburn after a Sunday spent fishing in the intercoastal. They want the story that comes with the house, the porch that's seen hurricanes and graduations, the mailbox painted by a grandkid, the oak tree that outlasted a dozen city councils. I tell every client, you can buy a house anywhere. Here you buy into a neighborhood that will shape your days, introduce you to new friends, and fill your calendar with everything from oyster roast to book club, porch fest, to the random Monday morning when the dolphins show up in the salt run. That's the real St. Augustine. You can't Google it. You have to live it. And you want someone on your side who already does. Now, when the crowds roll in and the streets fill up, how do the locals keep St. Augustine their own? That's a secret worth sticking around for. Living in St. Augustine means you measure the year in festivals, sunburns, and how many friends you bump into just trying to grab a coffee. There's a kind of rhythm here you can't get anywhere else, and you can't Google your way into it. Every November, you know it's Nights of Light season when the palm trees start twinkling and your phone lights up with text, "Meet me at the plaza and bring a sweater." While the city fills with out-of-towners every weekend craning for the perfect selfie, locals plan their visits during the week to avoid traffic and enjoy their favorite local dining spot. Saturdays, the real ones, start at the farmer's market by the amphitheater. You're there before the crowds, picking up a loaf of fresh sourdough bread, nodding to the same vendors you've seen since last spring. Some weekends, you'll run into half your block and wind up with more fresh tomatoes than you meant to buy, plus a story or two about who caught the biggest redfish that week. Tourist season means improvising. My neighbor on Anastasia Island swears by sneaking down the alley behind Osby Taco for a quiet lunch when Anastasia Boulevard is bumper to bumper. I learned fast. If you want a peaceful afternoon, you head for the salt one with a kayak or pick a shaded bench by the Mission and watch the shorebirds while everyone else crowds the fort. You'll hear complaints about crowds, but you'll also see locals turning those weekends into a party. Every year on the 4th of July, when everyone comes together for the fireworks, grilling out in their front yards and watching the display over the Matanzas River from the Bridge of Lions. Kids waving sparklers, parents swapping stories, everyone singing along when the neighbor breaks out in song. That's the kind of living like a local nobody tells you about on Zillow. Sharing your home with visitors means some days you have to get creative. Like the time my friend hosted a tourist survival brunch at the Blue Hen, locals only, open table, and an extra cinnamon roll for anyone who had to give directions to the fort 3 times that week. But if you know the rhythm, you keep your favorite spots, you celebrate the buzz, and you always find a way to make space for the moments that matter, rain or shine, tourist or no tourist. Just when you think you've mastered the art of living here, St. Augustine throws another surprise your way, especially when it comes to what it actually costs to keep the lights on and your head above water. Next, I'll break down the sneaky costs, insurance jumps, and how locals navigate the financial twists most people never see coming. You'll want this heads up before falling for that postcard perfect address. Nobody dreams of moving here for the fine print, but ask around and you'll hear plenty of wish I'd known moments over coffee at Dose. Take Jennifer, for instance. She fell in love with this porch swing, the fresh kitchen, the friendly waves from the neighbor, but a few months in, her first tax bill showed up with a surprise, a CDD fee almost as high as her car payment. It wasn't a mistake, just one of those hidden costs baked into newer neighborhoods. And once it's there for good. Insurance is another puzzle. In Davis Shores, you might pay a normal premium, Take a stroll a few blocks toward the water and suddenly your quote triples. After the last king tide, with houses lined up with sandbags up and down the street, you could spot who'd gotten good advice by who was calm and who was calling their agent after midnight. The real trick? An elevation certificate or a new roof can mean the difference between a sigh of relief and a budget-busting surprise. HOAs spark some of the liveliest local debates. In Trailmark, those dudes deliver resort-style amenities and landscaping so sharp you'd think someone trimmed the lawns with a ruler. Some folks swear by it. Swing by St Augustine South and you'll find a different scene. Boats in the driveway, sunflowers tangled in the front yard, lemonade stands on the corner, Halloween decorations that stop traffic. Freedom runs the show here, and the neighborhood grapevine spreads the news faster than any newsletter. Living close to the ocean looks like a dream, but salty air can turn an air conditioner into scrap metal and eat through a car before the lease is up. I've had clients move a few blocks inland just to dodge the flood insurance hike. They traded the constant roar of the surf for a longer stroll to the sand, and now they saw the lower bill is just icing on the cake. Ask around Lincolnville about those sewer assessment envelopes. One client's face said everything. Confusion, shock, then the instant resolve to ask about city projects on every future showing. Local knowledge isn't just a nice to have. It saves real money and real headaches. Every neighborhood has its own set of trade-offs, quirks, and cost surprises that never make it into the glossy brochures. That's why smart clients reach out before the bills arrive. I've seen the traps, sidestep the potholes, and learn which questions open the right doors. If you want to make this move with eyes wide open and maybe keep a few stories for yourself, I'm just a message away. If you want to know what longtime locals wish they could warn you about, stick around. The next stories are the kind you only learn after you've weathered a season or two here, and they'll save you more than a few headaches. Every move to St. Augustine comes with a learning curve, and for some, it's a welcome to town moment they'll never forget. Lauren picked a cottage just off Cedar Street because of the wide porch and the way the morning light hit the shingles. Quiet nights, a glass of wine, easy living. That evening, a neighbor knocked with a tray of datil pepper jelly and said, "Grab a chair, we're having drinks in 10. What she didn't expect was how alive the neighborhood would feel. One neighbor was restoring a 1920s bungalow, another ran a pop-up art studio. Conversations happened on the stoops, over fences, and often while dodging a bike tour rolling past. Within a week, Lauren wasn't just living in a home, she was part of a neighborhood layered in history, creativity, and real community. She'd stepped into a neighborhood that lives together. Over in Royal Golf Village, the Carters moved in for the space and the new construction, but what sealed it was week 3, when a food truck parked outside their cul-de-sac and the block transformed into a spontaneous night market. Grills fired up, kids dashed between sprinklers, and golf carts rolled in with coolers strapped to the back. "We thought we bought square footage," she texted me. "We actually bought a block party." On Anastasia Island, beach chairs on porches aren't decor, they're a signal. Swing by in the evening and someone's always out front planning a barbecue, offering fresh snapper, or handing you a local tip that never made it to Yelp. This is what people mean when they say they feel at home. Not because everything's perfect, but because it's personal, rich with tradition, and full of welcome. Here's what I tell every new client. Borrow the lifestyle before you buy it. Wander the neighborhood at night, accept the invite to that fish fry, walk to the pier before sunrise, see if the rhythm here matches your own. If you want a guide who's seen the block parties, the porch concerts, and the lawn full of plastic flamingos, courtesy of your new neighbors, I've got you. This isn't just real estate, this is real life, and it's better when you know what to expect before you jump in. All right, if you've made it this far, first of all, you're my kind of person. You're not just curious about St. Augustine, you're serious about what it really means to live here. We've covered it all. Neighborhood quirks, coastal trade-offs, local secrets, and those gotcha costs that never make the brochures. But this is the heart of it. St. Augustine isn't just somewhere you point to on a map. It's porch lights at twilight, shrimp boils in the driveway, neighbors who'll lend their generator without a second thought, and sunrises that will actually stop you in your tracks. Moving isn't just about the house, it's about the lifestyle. You need a team that gets your place and already knows where the good stuff is. Maybe your next chapter includes salty air, a spontaneous festival, or the kind of porch concert you only find around here. If you're searching for where your story clicks, reach out. Tell me what you're chasing. We're locals, we're real, we're ready when you are. Curious about what life actually looks like in every corner of the city? Dive into the playlist right here. It's stacked with deep dives on neighborhoods, behind-the-scenes stories, the kind of real talk that makes you feel right at home. Because in St. Augustine, finding the right house, that's just your starting line. Whether you're tuning in with sand between your toes, sipping a latte at Flamingo, or just daydreaming about your first sunset at Porpoise Point, welcome to the neighborhood. You'll find me on a boat, on a paddleboard, or catching live music at a local restaurant. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll catch you on the next one.